Good evening, Zambia. Good afternoon, good morning, depending where you are watching us from today. My name is Frank Saliki. I'm your host for this evening. I'm also joined by Dr. Barbara, and welcome to another presentation of TVBAKWETU. Good evening, Dr. Barbara.
Good evening, Frank. How are you? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to everybody, wherever you may be, in Zambia, in Europe, in America, in the islands. Who knows? Even in Mars, we never know somebody's watching.
Come on,
how are you?
Mars. It's TVBAKWETU. Everybody wants to watch it.
Everybody wants to know what's happening. You never know. The aliens want to know what's going on.
Good. How's your week? How's your week started really well? It's only Monday.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's all right, not bad. Remembrance Day was my mom's memorial, so I did a bit of that since it's a Memorial Day as well. And then there's my son just crossing over there. And bad timing. And so we're all fine, yeah. One bad thing happened. I got bit by a wasp, or is it a bee? And apparently they have all these, what do they call them? They have an endemol for a poison, whatever sting they have. So if it stings you, then all the other bees will be like looking for you. That's the reason when somebody is stung by a bee, they get swamped by a family of bees. Don't make it witchcraft now. I'm going to close all the windows. Get an old-fashioned mosquito net and wrap it around my bed.
Oh, my week is not my weekend, you say, is Remembrance Day. So yesterday in my church I hold the Remembrance Day service, so which is quite good. It's quite sobering that you get to reflect. And today, this week, I'm on annual leave, so I spent today with my little boy, and we're spending tomorrow as well, which is quite nice. Excellent. You just go away from the busyness of life and just like everything calm. And we're also joined by our good friend Jerome. Good evening.
Good evening. Sorry, I'm having some challenges with the. I use my CLZ for internet, but now I'm using the MTN, and I think my internet has been so poor, if I can say so. It's tripping. Sometimes you go off, you go and just like that. So I don't understand why MTN is treating me this. This has been very much unfair after being a faithful, subscribe in terms of bundles. Then they are treating me like this. I think that's something unacceptable. But anyway, Frank, how are you? And Dr. Chand, how are you?
I'm fine. They need to up their game. They need to up their game. Otherwise, they'll be out of business.
I know. That's not good marketing for that's not good marketing.
Not at all.
MTN, yeah. That was good marketing. Anyway, Jerome, how is my hometown Lancashire? I grew up there. I lived there till I was about 2005. That was my hometown. I lived in Yarrow Avenue. That was my hometown.
Yeah, Lancashire is fine. Lancashire is fine, Frank. I mean, at least we can not complain much, but things at least things are very much okay, and the people continue doing or continue with their daily activities. So I can't say much, though I'm not. I should be. I sneaked off of Copper Belt. I should be in Lancashire anytime. Yeah, I think so.
Everywhere. Yeah, just everywhere. Can I ask you a question? Just a random question. Is it a thing that anybody who comes in TVBAKWETU has to have glasses? Have you seen?
Which one? Please, the question.
The glasses that we wear. We are all wearing glasses.
I can't get the question.
I say, is it a requirement that everybody who comes on TVBAKWETU has to wear glasses, as we are?
I'm telling you, look, if I remove the glasses, I'll not be able to see your faces. So that is very much a big problem.
Me too.
Yeah, so I just have to put my glasses so that I see your faces and I know what is happening, because I'll not even be able to read the names of the people. That's another challenge. I can't see the face clearly.
So in other words, most of the people on TVBAKWETU are blind. Never mind.
We are visually handicapped.
Yeah.
Right then, let's get into the nitty-gritty of tonight. I've been trying to understand the contract of supplying medication. I've been reading it through after watching you on telly last night, Jerome, and also listening to you on TVBAKWETU. I've been trying to study this all contract, how the Ministry of Health give contract to supply medication. And I have to say it's very complicated. Now, I looked at it in a contractual way. There's so many loopholes. I looked at why honeybee scandal happened. It's because of the same contract. The way it's all set up, it's very complicated. It's very anti-Zambian. And that's the most depressing about it. It's very, very anti-Zambian. It's going to benefit a lot of pharmaceutical companies, Indian companies, foreign companies, and they're going to take all the money and they're going to go away. Now, the question is, we've got all these government entities that supply. So we got ZAMRA that deals with all of that. So for me, that we understand all the faults, all the mistakes that happened, all the mistakes that happened with the honeybee scandal. Why are we waiting? Why are we trusting the same people we trusted to give that contract, to still run these contracts? I'm just gonna have your thoughts, Dr. Barbara. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna come to you, Jerome, because I think you're so passionate about it and might go on. So I'm gonna start with our lady this evening, Dr. Barbara. What are your thoughts about the whole thing? Because for me, I look at it, I'm thinking this is very complicated, and it's got so many loopholes for people to just give the contract to whoever they want.
I tried to, like you've said, I tried to go through it yesterday because I find it really, really depressing. I tried to go through it. And then the only conclusion I came up with is in the Ministry of Health, it's like there's a rolling contract for corruption, invisible corruption, where everything is set up in such a way that 2 years from now, if nothing happens, we'll still see Jerome saying the same things. If nothing is done, if everything stays exactly the way it is now, not even 2 years by, maybe this time next year, something would have happened. Somebody would have sent in medication that's wrong or that is not safe for the people, because it's like nobody is keeping an eye on something that is so important. As a matter of fact, this is not a discussion that even Jerome should be having at this point in time. It should have been sorted. It's something that should have been looked at as a matter of urgency, considering how big the scandal is. I don't know how big a scandal should be before something is done about it. But I tried yesterday because I was seeing how Jerome is passionate. I said, let me just go through it. The more you read it, the more upset you get. And then you're thinking, it shouldn't be just Jerome worrying about this. It should be everybody. Where is the everybody? It's like everybody is so comfortable with the situation. That's why I'm calling it a rolling contract of corruption. The contracts are just rolling over and nothing is happening. What do you think, Jerome?
Before you come in, Jerome, it's quite interesting. I just have to make this point. When the honeybee scandal came out, we didn't have a lot of we didn't have a lot of people coming out and speaking up. We had one person who's on our panel today who spoke out about honeybee scandal, who spoke about expired medication. You didn't have a lot of people in the Ministry of Health saying this should not happen. You've got a lot of people who just let it happen. You had a lot of people who just watched what was happening without ever saying anything. But then what we're doing is we're trusting the exact same people to be able to run these contracts properly. For me, in everything that we've done with the new government, there's one ministry that is very important to the country. A healthy country, healthy people are the one who are going to build an economy. And the first thing that has to be sorted out is a Ministry of Health. And everybody knew the scandals that went on there. So I don't know why the whole system has been led to run exactly the way it was running in the old regime. Exactly the way it was running with the same people running the system. I don't know why we didn't go, we want to build a strong economy. So what we're going to do is we're going to have an overhaul of the Ministry of Health. For me, that should have been a starting point, because the people who are running that ministry decided they're going to poison our people. There is patience. There is patience, and we have been patient with the new government in what they're doing. But this is a matter of agency. This was something that needed to be sorted out. This was a day one conversation to go, listen what happened in the Ministry of Health. It should not happen. We had one person standing up. When this scandal happened, we had one person standing up and say, all these medications are expired. We didn't have 100 people. We didn't have 1,000 people in the country saying these medications expired. Everybody kept quiet. We had one person in the country who said, this should not happen to my people. Everybody looked the other way. And these are the same people we're saying, here is a contract. You have them. You're in charge. And we expect them to deliver for the people. Jerome.
Frank, I don't know in terms of the sound if I'm very clear that side. If you guys can get me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Though yeah, I'm having a challenge with MTN. I don't know why today's behaving like this. You see, the problem which is there is people failure to come out and speak out for when there is a problem, especially that when they have nothing concerning them in terms of what is going to happen, but eventually they forget that whether they like it or not, it will definitely come back and affect them. If the government gives a contract in a wrong way, if you don't use government hospitals in terms of getting the drugs, it will get to you by the government using the money that you pay through taxes to pay that contract, because that contract has been contracted on your behalf so that a service can be provided. So we have such kind of a habit as the people, especially we show a I don't care habit. And my other thing that is very worrying is about also the professionals themselves. Most of the time they tend to be quiet and they tend to look like things are going well. So that's the challenge which is there as a professional. You see, I'm not talking now as a card, I'm talking as a professional. You have the mandate to make sure that you do things according to the profession that you are trained into. And you need not to condone or receive any pressure from anyone if you are doing your work professionally. No wonder I tell the people to say, if you are ready to compromise, then you are not ready to serve. You should be at all means as a professional, be as a situation where you cannot compromise on anything. But I'm seeing any small compromise in the health sector result in massive number of deaths, massive number of diseases, and this can be more damaging to the economy of the country. So as people trying to do these things, they need to consider and think otherwise in this. And sometimes when you sit quiet, it means that you are supporting what is being happening. Some people, they may come out and say, no, us, we don't go to the media, we don't use the media, we just do this thing in whatever call themselves boardrooms, which is not true. When something is of public interest, you need to involve the public and tell them what you have seen, it is wrong. If it's private, if it's for the private, you don't need to get yourself or tell the public to say this is what's happening. No, you follow those private individuals to say this what you have done is very much wrong. But if people are,
when we talk about medication and people are going, this is an internal matter. No, it's not an internal matter. It affects people in the country. Somebody might have malaria. They go to the hospital. They give them medication. They expect they're going to get better. That medication is dysfunctional. It's not working, and people will die. The reality of it is when people cover up things like this, people die. There's no other way around it. People die. People are going to have ailments that they don't know about because of these expired medication. Because medications got chemicals in them, and they've got a shelf line for a reason. And you go past that shelf line, there's going to have a reaction. And when people say it's discussing it at a self level, when there's so much medication out there that expired, what's gonna happen? People have to know, and people have to know this expired medication, and people have to know they have to stop. And we have to be transparent, especially when we're dealing with people's health. We have to be transparent in what we do. So for me, in my work, the previous year, I worked as a clinical governance officer. Those are the things that I had to be transparent. If a doctor gave a wrong medication, not just expired medication, wrong medication, I had to get on the phone. I had to ring that patient and say, "You've been given the wrong medication." They had to know. We couldn't just sit there and go, "Oh, we've given them wrong medication. That's fine. Let's hope nothing happens." Sometimes the medication that we're given did not have a lot of effect of them. But the fact of the matter it was a wrong medication, and it was in the interest of that person to know that the medication that they've given them is wrong. Sometimes we ring them and say it's a wrong medication, but it won't have any effect. But they had to know they'd been given wrong medication. Now, what they're saying here is you can give expired medication and everything else, and then they're saying, let's just discuss it in the boardroom. It's not a boardroom matter. The moment that medication goes out there in the public with thousands and thousands of people having it, as Jeremy is saying, that's now a public matter, and people have to have the guts to say the public have to know about it.
It's like, we have to be objective, because things like medication are the hidden killers of our people. If, for example, if you go into your house, you open the tap of water, and every single day the water is yellow, there'll be an outcry, because that's something that you're seeing every day. With medication, you don't see the effects of those deadly poisons that are in the medicines. And then we have a population that doesn't react to the bad things that is happening to them. A lot of people are so casual about their health. A lot of people have reached the point where if something bad happens, if your family member dies, it's their time. Oh, even if it's not supposed to be like that, we have to be more, more educated as a society. We have to question the things that are happening. We have to question the process, like the way Jerome is doing. One of the founders of the NHS system, which is the UK is so proud of, he was not a multimillionaire. He was just somebody like Jerome who was angry that there was cholera in his town where there's water. And he took it upon himself to say, this is not supposed to be like this. The more you talk, the more people listen, like the way we are doing now. People will start asking themselves, this paracetamol that I'm taking, when is it going to expire? Or this paracetamol that I'm taking, is it supposed to have this color? This aspirin that I'm taking, is it supposed to have this color? It doesn't have to be just one person pushing. Everybody, even the citizens, it's your health. It's just like water. It's your health you have to question. The Ministry of Health has to be questioned. If you're going to procure medication, what's the method? Because it shouldn't be so difficult to even try to read through it. It's so complicated that you start asking yourself, who even writes these procedures of how it's supposed to be bought? I don't understand. Jerome, do you know how they get to the point where it's supposed to be done like this? Because it's too complicated for its own use.
And before Jerome comes in, and that means it's very true. You're a doctor. Dr. Bauer, you're a medical doctor, so you're not a group D person, as somebody put it. You're a medical doctor, and you are supposed to look at that and go, I get it, and you don't.
It's so complicated. You ask yourself, is it ZAMRA before? Is it ZAMRA after? Is it ZAMRA when is ZAMRA coming in? When is it not coming in? The wording, you don't understand it. You ask yourself, at which point does ZAMRA come in? At which point is ZAMRA involved in this medication? Maybe you have to be a pharmacist like Jerome himself to understand when it's supposed to come in, but isn't that supposed to be something simple that everyone should understand? Jerome, where does the ZAMRA come in with the procurement of medication?
Yeah, I think that's I get the point. And the time ZAMRA comes in is when ZAMRA comes in the time for the suppliers. ZAMRA comes in issues of issuing the licenses. Then for drugs, ZAMRA comes in when you're about to manufacture the drugs, or if it's already manufactured, ZAMRA also comes in before the people consume the medication. ZAMRA need to certify and give their certificates to say these medications are very much okay and the Zambian people can consume. That's the way, and that's the mandate ZAMRA has been given by an act of parliament, and that is what it's supposed to do. But the challenge that I've seen with the people is when corruption enters too much into your head, you fail to think properly in such a way that all the time you're just thinking in terms of corruption. As a result, you end up now selling or killing.
Oh, I think it's frozen.
The frozen, Jera.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello?
Honestly.
Are you getting me?
Okay.
Yeah, MTN is failing me, like seriously failing me today, and I'm very much upset. So, so the way it's supposed to be done is all the procedures are supposed to be done accordingly, and they are supposed to be followed, just like the way we mentioned yesterday, how things are supposed to be done. And we expect, you see, the president is saying that I want to work with professionals. I want to work with technocrats so that they guide to the way things are supposed to be done. But you find that technocrats are the one that goes and do something stupid, if I can say. They are the one that goes and do something useless. This is where it tends to say, what's the difference between a cadre who's just a grade 2 and the technocrat in this office? If it both, they can do the same work. They can produce the work that is not the way it's supposed to be done. What is the difference? So this is where the problem is. And as professionals, and as professionals, we are supposed to differentiate ourselves when you are doing the professional work, and people should see that this is what you are providing is a professional work, and our understanding is on the professional level as compared to the other side where you are not doing on the professional level. But what we're seeing is something that is done on not on the professional level, but something doing to conceive some personal interest. That should not be the case. Mr. Frank, I blame someone who made me to do pharmacy. Maybe if I were not a pharmacist, you would have not known about honeybee and all these candles. But provided I'm a pharmacist.
If you were not a pharmacist, Jerome could have all died. So that was, and just mention, because you're the only one. You're the only one who were prepared to speak up in what was an attack to our people. You're the only one who in all the professionals that we had in the country, you're the only one who were prepared to speak up.
Yeah, so myself, that's very true. Myself, if you do something in my profession that is not in with a professional conformity, definitely I'll speak out because it is my duty. And when I finish my school, we work under an oath, and we always say that we are going to protect our people, our citizens, and we are going to make sure that no harm, any form of harm, is going to go to the citizens. So my interest is not on any other person, but the citizens of the country. If anything is wrong, I need to tell the people whom I'm sworn in to protect. Who are those people? The citizens. So my oath does not speak about, no, I'll give allegiance to the president, I'll give allegiance to the minister, I'll give allegiance to my employer. No, my oath talks about having allegiance to my patients and my country and my citizens. So when anything wrong happens, I need to go back and report to the people I'm allegiant to. and these are the citizens. No wonder you see me, I don't hesitate. I speak out because I'm just doing what I fulfill in my oath as a pharmacist.
And that's how it's supposed to be. As people, I think sometimes in Zambia we see certain things happening and we look the other way. And I said at the top of the program is for the number of people who saw what's happening, because it's just not you, Jerome, who saw what's happening. A lot of people saw what was happening. A lot of people knew what was happening was wrong. They knew it because they're not stupid. They knew what was happening was wrong. They knew there was expired medication out there, but they never went out to speak up. I think something that has to change in the way that we do things is being able to say, that is wrong, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to speak up. It doesn't matter what is going on. This whole thing of, I want to be, it might affect my job. It might affect the job. First, Jerome, just say, did it affect your job? You're muted.
What are you saying? I can't get you, Frank. You are saying?
I just wanted to ask a question. So when you spoke out, did it affect your job? How was your job affected?
Yeah, you see, the issue that you need to know very well is when you speak up with these matters and those matters that we had in the previous, especially there's the much sensitive matter for 1B. I think I was called a mad person. Just imagine, then you speak out for something that is professional. Someone calls and tells you to say, that's a lunatic. That person is mad. Why? You see, I didn't feel bad, but I just said, God forgive these people, for they don't know what they are doing. But because for them it was like something unique to see a pharmacist speaking out and standing out to say, no, this is not the way it's supposed to be done. Well, they have bulldozed all the pharmacists all over and endorsed their decision. So this is where they see like, you are mad. Until the people had to come and know that I was not mad. It's them who were mad for them to give the Zambian people those things that were supposed to be done. Instead of humbling and asking for me to forgive them, but what do? They start sending the state security on me. Sure, should it be like that?
You know, the thing is that the Ministry of Health is a money-producing cow. It's a place where there's no actual statistics. You don't have actual numbers. You don't have proper evidence of what's going on. You rely on whatever, the government relies on whatever information that they're given. Somebody, if I come to you just from black and white and say, in this hospital, we need so much and so much and so much, you depend on that. So it operates like a mafia. So, you know, like a classic example, you know, in the Al Capone times, in the prohibition of alcohol in America, when there were all these mafias, the person that you go and report to that there is a problem is actually maybe a relative of the person you're talking about. And then before you know it, just like the way the mafias will treat people, they'll start telling you, you were talking to that young boy, oh, that young boy. Do you know that he's crazy? He's just fool. He's just hot-headed. Be careful. You know that they're trying to destroy someone's personality. That's how things are. Where there is corruption, the first thing you do is the person who's trying to talk about the corrupt business should be tarnished. That's why there's so much toxicity. Even maybe cleaning up the Ministry of Health itself, the people who are supposed to clean it will first start thinking, are we trying to clean up the crazy people? Who is crazy? Who's not? Who's the real person? Because everybody wants to hold on to that money-making cow. The Ministry of Health makes money. All the scandals that have happened in Zambia that are shocking come from the Ministry of Health. You can't even pinpoint where the money is being stolen because it can be stolen from anywhere. That's where the problem is. That's where people will come left, right, and center to say Jerome is crazy or he's being hot-headed, or even from within our own home, from our own UPND, There are people who realize, this is a cow that we need to protect. This boy is maybe too outspoken. That's where the problem is. That's where we have to be open-minded and say, there should be transparency. Things should be done in the right way. The medicine that is being bought for the country is not for personal use, it's for all of us. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, you can be in a car accident. In the road, when you're in an accident, nobody cares whether you've got money or not. They just pick you up and take you to the nearest hospital and help you, God, if there's nothing. By grace do we all go. You know, that's how it is. Go on, Frank.
I say, with the Ministry of Health being a cash cow, why don't we have a proper audit system? In the job that I do, involves buying a lot of things in the National Health Service here. I'm audited like crazy. I'm audited for every penny that I spend. Everything that I do, everybody knows what I've done that year, what I've spent that year. I've got a budget to spend. I've got a budget to spend on agency. I've got a budget to spend on anything that I spent. I'm audited. I'm asked, we've gone £100 over. Can you explain why we've gone £100 over? I have to explain myself. And for every penny that I spend, and I kid you not, every penny that I spend, I have to account for it. I can't just go, I don't know what happened with that £5. I have to account for every penny that I have. And I think for me, the only way is auditing the Ministry of Health until it's adequate enough. If it means over auditing, and there's no such thing as over auditing, you're just double checking things are being done in a proper way. Like what you said, Dr. Barbara, those people, some people in the UPND have worked out the Ministry of Health was a cash cow. Money was just going there, so they want to go there. And the whole system carries on. You've got a system with people who are there. The people have not changed. You've got the exact same people. You've got people doing the exact same way. What do they say? Insanity is doing the exact same thing in the exact same way, expecting a different outcome. It's just not going to happen. We can change government as much as we want. As long as we have the same people running the show, things are always going to happen that way. But Patrick Chilufya, good evening, Wakalamba.
Good evening, Jerome, Barbara, Frank. Good evening. Good evening, viewers, nationwide, worldwide. What was the question, Frank?
Auditing. How important is auditing to make sure that there is the things are being done in the right way?
Yeah, it's very important, and I guess there must have been so many Auditor General's reports regarding Minister of Finance, Minister of Health, and it's just that there is a serious culture of corruption in Zambia, especially that ministry. There are certain ministries that are more vulnerable than the other. And Ministry of Health, as somebody alluded, that it's been used as a cash cow. And these criminals, they will never stop, trying to make money out of Ministry of Health. Even when a new government has come in, they've put procedures and processes, but they will still want to steal, like coming up with emergency tenders. This is just one way of circumventing the process, because they know that if they follow a normal procedure, they won't be able to give contracts to their friends and make money. So what they're trying to do is just to circumvent the process. And criminals, like I explained yesterday, criminals are like viruses. COVID virus, it mutates. That's why we've got so many mutants of COVID, because what a virus does is, the moment it discovers that the body cells knows its shape, it changes the shape. So even these criminals in Zambia, they evolve, they mutate. They don't just steal in the same way. So, I think Ministry of Health, like ZESCO, there is need for an overhaul, and we need fresh blood directors, because as long as the same people are there, because frauds like these are done by cartels, and cartels are very difficult to break. As long as the culture is bad, they're used to stealing, they'll always find other ways of stealing. So yes, but Frank, we need auditors. Actually, auditors should be part of the tendering process, but not just when they've given the tender. That's when auditors check. Auditors needs to be involved from the first stage of the process to the end, and also they need to make recommendations as quickly as possible. That's why a department like Ministry of Health needs an internal auditor who sits just in that department and have a what do they call it? A secret helpline. If somebody suspects something, they have to phone the auditors and tell them we suspect something is happening, and they go there and check as quick as possible. But the problem is the culture is terrible there. The culture is bad. When you look at Ministry of Health, look at ZESCO, how can we have, when we've got bumper rains, and then then there's blackout. The president the other day was having meetings with a former president, and there was blackout at State House. And as I said yesterday, Ministry of Health, if indeed this was an emergency tender, then it is a result of poor planning, because there's no way we can have an emergency tender when we don't have an emergency in the country, when we don't have a disaster.
I was just going to ask Jerome the same question. I thought emergency tenders were designed for an emergency. So, for example, if all of a sudden we have a spike of COVID, then you can have an emergency tender. You don't just have it. And at the moment, Zambia is not experiencing a medical emergency. Can they give an emergency tender in those circumstances, Jerome?
Yeah, before Jerome comes in. So, but Frank, the point I was trying to drive home is, if this is indeed an emergency tender, and there's no emergency in the country, unless they tell me they are buying COVID vaccine, which they are not, because it's provided by the World Health Organization or the donors, then there is a problem. Then, which means we've got a ministry that is dysfunctional. There is poor planning, because, Frank, you work in NHS, you know how we work. We plan. And if you had planned, there's no way you can have an emergency unless something happens. Like in NHS now, unless something, say, all of a sudden, there's a huge increase of COVID infections. Then there might be an emergency tender to provide the lateral flow test and other things. You understand, Frank, and Dr. Barbara? But something like that doesn't happen. There is no, if an emergency tender comes in, it will be queried. And some people might be reprimanded, because that is ineffectiveness. That is poor planning. And poor planning, why have we employed people to plan and there's an emergency? Over to you, Jerome.
Yeah, I think I somehow agree with you, and we hope and pray that with the new Dawn government, all these things will be tackled, and we are going to have stability in the way things are supposed to be done. Because just like I mentioned yesterday, to say, before you make a tender, you need to do quantification. And once you do your quantification, then from there you are going to, quantification is going to tell you how much of each product do you need to have for a period of, if you are planning for 1 year, you do it for 1 year according to the population that you have. If you are planning for 2 years, according to the population that you are likely to have by then. So you do plan for each product and you give it to the relevant ministries or authorities for them now to make up issues of tenders and all that. Then from there, there is issues of the tender comes out and they now sanction the procurement, and those things are procured. And as they procured again, me as a professional, as a pharmacist there, I do check before those drugs we receive them. I do check on what has come in the country and before the people consume that. And once we allow those things to be, we continuously checking them to see if they are continuously in conformity with what we want the people to consume. So they should be at no time when the number of cases that we are having or the number of population that we have is almost the same, and we did the planning and the quantification, then on the other hand, we come and have an emergency order. Somehow it is not making for me any sense at all. We should not be having emergency tender. And I hope this is the last emergency tender we are going to see for the people of Zambia, but we are going to see a proper tendering procedure. So like, for example, we know very well that the next budget line is starting in January. So I was expecting the tenders would have been off-roaded now, and people would have been bidding, and by the time we are reaching December, people would have been known to say these are supposed to bring this and this and this, these are the tenders. And as we are starting January, we expect the people to start off-roading the medication according to the agreements in the tender. But this thing has not been done. So now you wonder to say, we have the professionals, what are they doing? If we have cadres, you can say they don't understand their cadres, they are not schooled. But now you have the professionals at all levels with whatever the qualification they have. But we still have all these problems that happen. Then why is their qualifications are not speaking to the works that they are supposed to do? So these are some of the issues that you are supposed to do and change the system in such a way that a system starts to be responsive with what is happening and what the people are supposed to have. We know that we are starting a new budget line. Don't you know, Patrick, that you are having a new budget line in January? Chanda, you don't know that you are having a new budget line in January?
Yes.
Now, Frank, don't you know that? So once in the new budget line, and already the budget has already come out, and they have said to say, oh, for medication and other things, we have allocated this amount of money to procure these. So you already have the facts with you. So what you need to do now is for you now to say, we are expecting this money in the budget. So what should we do? We are supposed to off-road the tenders so that now we can have suppliers for a certain these products for them to be to give us as we start the new budget line. When we do the test, there's no need of, as we do the tender this in December, again in June we just come and do the same tender over the same things. Well, most of the drugs that we have, they have a shelf life of 2 years, 3 years. Why should we be doing the tenders like on a monthly basis as if we have on a monthly medical emergencies? That's not true. So those are some of the issues. If we have shortages of a certain commodity, we need to start probing first. Why do we have a shortage? Is there any abuse of this drug? Because sometimes this shortage comes in because there are some clique of people who are abusing that medication. Is there people who are stealing these drugs? You see, this is what comes in when you have shortage for the things that was not, or when you quantified things. You need to ask a question to say, are there people who are stealing? If so, who are these people? Where? You start following the batch numbers and you start auditing how people have been using these commodities. Then again, if you find that none of these two, then you need to ask yourself questions. The people we involved in quantification, did they do the correct job? Were they professionals? If you discover that they didn't do a correct job, you have the authority. Why not suspend them? Why not charge them? Why not fire them? All those things, you see, then you start seeing people being accountable with the decision they do. Not when drugs are not there, you start running up and down. We have shortage, let's buy. What if you buy again, those drugs are going to be abused? Right now, we have a lot of health workers who are abusing drugs because they want to calm themselves down and to cope with the pressure of seeing the patient. So instead of giving the drugs to the patient, they end up giving themselves. And as a result, increase in the number of drugs that are running out because health workers are abusing these drugs. We are
There's a very important point. They're very important there about batch medication. So I was involved in a trial medication. So whatever comes, so if I go, let's say if I go and have this medication, I'll go, it would say Frank Seliki came in and he had this medication given and the batch number of this was this. So then if somebody comes to audit that, they will say, right, this is the amount of medication that came in. These are the batch numbers of the medication that came in. Right, that one went to Mr. Jerov Kanyika, that one went to Mr. Patrick Chilufya, that one went to Dr. Barbara Chanda, that one went to Frank Seliki, and there's a line you can go, all the batch numbers, and you say, right, we have aligned all the batch numbers they went to this one and that person. And then there are times where medication for some reason is destroyed because it was left out of the freezer. Again, that batch number, that medication we had to throw away because it had expired for so reason. So when you look at that, you're able to account for every medication that arrived and say, this is where that medication, this is where all the medication went. And this is the day it arrived. That was the day it was given to Dr. Chanda. That was the day Mr. Patrick Chilufya came in and it was given. You can tell the day, the time, the year, and the month that medication was coming in. And we have this thing where medication runs out. How is that even possible? Like in the middle of treatment, somebody says, oh, oops, we've run out of that medication. How is it accepted? If I come to my house, right? Let's say you come to your house. I gave this example on the weekend. I'll pick on Chilufya again. If Chilufya goes to his house and then he goes to the house and Mana Chilufya, Chanya Kubwali, Mana Chilufya, Wungana Wupwa. Chilufya will say, why didn't you tell me? The next day he comes in, Chilufya, Chilufya Chanya Kubwali, Wungana Wupwa. The third time, Chilufya Valandat, Mana Chilufya Ma Setinga, Nishtamune Njebela. These are like things, the common thing. We know when sugar is running out of a house. We know when millimil is coming out, is running out of the house. And we can't know when medication that is going to save people's lives is going to run out of the hospital. How is that even allowed? Dr. Barbara?
It's because in Zambia, how things work, we don't have systems in place. We used to. Actually, it's not right to say we don't have systems in place. We don't follow the systems that we are supposed to follow, because the systems that they use on paper, if you were to read the paper, if you were to read how is the process working, it's exactly the same as it would work in England. If I'm giving an IV medication to a patient, I sign, the nurse signs, we write something, we give it to the patient, we know that has been signed by the pharmacist as well. That works exactly the same as in Zambia. The problem is, where there is corruption, people start skipping these procedures because they're doing it to gratify themselves, to make money for themselves. There is no need for ordering emergency medication, because right now, in a system that works, it's so simple. They can even choose a pilot plan to say, okay, we have a pharmacist, say Jerome works in the pharmacy at UTH. Let's use UTH or let's use Shawarma Clinic as a pilot study on how they are using the medication. Just one small place, because you'll not use the whole Zambia, you'll be confused. Just use one small place. So let's see how Shawarma is using the medication. Then you use that sample of shawarma to replicate throughout the country, or you can use shawarma as a sample for the, the urban area. Then you choose maybe Kalomo or another rural area to see how are they using this medication. Those are the pilot places where you can see how you are using the medication, how the procurement is working. Then when you put them together, you can come up with a plan and say, this is how the medication is working. Fine. We're a third world country. Maybe if you have a knee injury, we can afford to give you maybe the first 6 packs of painkillers to cover you for 3 days on Monday, Tuesday, when you've just injured yourself. Day 5, day 6, when things are a little bit better, then you can buy for yourself. You can work out those things using the pilot studies that you do. Believe it or not, people travel every single year to come to Europe, to go to wherever to study these things, but we don't implement them where we are coming from. If you come to England, for example, every time somebody goes to study something, you will see, within the hospital, we are going to do a small pilot study. We are going to see if diabetes is going to work. So we are going to do a study with maybe third-year students can, track this to see how it will work. If it works, within 6 months, it's implemented, because that's the reason they sent people to go to Sweden to learn about education and how their processes are working. In Zambia, we need to do that. We need to start moving away from complaining and doing the same things over and over again. By now, the Ministry of Health should have a pilot study. Our procurement system led us to honeybee. What can we do? Let's try Shawarma Clinic. Let's see how they will use this medication, how we will buy it, how it will get to the people, how it will expire, what we can do. If it fails, you try something else. If it works, you say, no, this is what we'll do in the whole country. Ministry of Health, the team of procurement team, it should be broken. If they can't sack them, they can break them, because the reason corruption works is because people are working among friends. Here in UK, if you're a local doctor or if you're doing a practice, there's nowhere where you go where you'll be so comfortable to do nonsense, because people are different. There's so many different cultures. You work in different places. You can't be in a place where you've worked for 30 years. Yeah, the same person doing procurement, 15 years, 10 years. It's just a clique of friends. They will not change the system. Even next week, they'll just issue the same paper. They don't even change the names. They just reprint it and, change the date. That's why these things are happening. We have to stop wasting money. People are going abroad. This year, they've booked people to go somewhere to learn about procurement without implementing it. What do you think about?
I'm just going to ask. It's interesting that they learn all this system. If you come to study here, you learn all these things about auditing.
Yeah.
I went to university. I went to university, and if I don't implement what I studied at university, I won't have a job today. I'm employed not because what my degree or my master's degree says. I'm employed because of what I'm able to implement because of my master's degree. If I don't implement what I've learned, my master's degree means absolutely nothing. And somebody who hasn't even got a degree comes in and they're able to implement, they're always going to have the job over me. The names Frank Seliki MA is not going to mean anything. It's all about turning up at every single time and implementing. It's like, just a simple example. If it's football and you've got a striker and the striker doesn't score, you don't play them all the time, do you? Don't play them all. You're going to look for somebody else because you want results. You want results, and we're not getting the results, and we're not learning. And anybody who started auditing will know this. I can't audit myself. I can't audit my department. So Patrick Chilufia, here's the thing. Why is Ministry of Health got internal auditors? Why are they being late to audit themselves? How does that even work?
From what I understand, they should have internal auditors who are independent. So the problem with Ministry of Finance is huge. You know, there've been corruption there for centuries. It's like a cash cow. If there is, but Frank, you know, in the UK, one of the biggest government expenditure goes to health. That's like in Zambia. You know now that Zambians are living longer, we're getting diseases like cancer we never used to have. So the expenditure for Ministry of Health is even getting bigger and bigger. And the criminals also are getting smarter. They want to make more money. But as Barbara said, Frank, Zambia has got, Ministry of Health has got similar procedures, like in the UK. We've got qualified auditors. Most of the general auditors in Zambia are ACCA qualified, which is the same as us here in the UK. But the problem is they will try to avoid those processes. But I would mention one of the other things that causes problems, because even if they were doing that, if the systems were computerized, then it's easy to catch the criminals, because if a system is computerized, it will leave a trail. Now in Zambia, but Frankie, if you go to the hospital, the doctor will write on a piece of paper the medication, go and collect it from the pharmacy. And the pharmacist will take the paper, give you the medication. Here in the UK, if you went to the pharmacy and collect the medication, to start with, that prescription will be sent by email to pharmacy if it's in the hospital. And once it reaches the pharmacy, they give you the medication. It subtracts how much medication has been given and how much is remaining. So even if that pharmacy...
Before I even give you the medication, there's going to be somebody who's going to sit there. So for example, if the medication is for Mr. Patrick Chulufia, they're going to have to make sure you are Mr. Patrick Chulufia.
That's the thing. Yeah, they will need your identification. So there's a trail there. Dr. Saliki gave Patrick Chulufia a prescription by email. And the email was sent to the pharmacy. The pharmacy has given the medication, and the moment they give the medication, it reduces the number of medication in there. So there's a trail there. In Zambia, Ministry of Health has got money. They can invest in a computerized system. But you know why? They would rather not to do that, because they will be caught. Because some of the medication that disappears in the hospital goes to the private hospitals. But Barbara would tell me that. We're talking of amoxicillin. It's one of the drugs that is on demand. It's highly abused. This penicillin-based tablet medication, they're highly abused in Zambia. Somebody just feels sick.
That's true. Antibiotics in Zambia are not controlled.
They're not controlled, and they're supposed to be controlled.
You can just wake up in the morning and just say, I want antibiotics. Here in England, I can guarantee you that my son, he's now 20, he's had antibiotics on 2 occasions. Yes. At some point, even me, I'm a doctor, I was like, oh my God, this child needs antibiotics. Yeah. I had to follow the rules, because you can't just pick them up. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to take it. I'm feeling ill, I've been bitten by a bee. I have to book in with my GP myself. I can't just say I'll prescribe for myself. I can't.
I'm a doctor, I'll just say.
Yeah. Oh no, I'll just write it down for myself and go and pick up some painkillers. No, I have to see my GP.
So the point, Frank, I was trying to there is also abuse of those drugs. So they end up in the community, they end up in private pharmacies, and drugs also. Zambians needs to be educated. just because it's an antibiotic, you cannot just use it for anything. But Barbara is a doctor. The antibiotics have got different types of uses. You know, the same antibiotics you would use for a skin infection is not the same antibiotic you would use for an infection somewhere else. You know, so and then the other thing, Frank, the other problem that we have is that I don't think that ZAMRA, because ZAMRA keeps a lot of drugs in there, which is danger, because some of the drugs are going to go bad, some of the drugs are going to be stolen, and the storage cost, the stuff. UTH should be decentralized, just the way they are decentralizing the country. UTH should be decongested. Zambia needs to go back to that system, which even the UK has got. But Barbara, before, I cannot go to Kito Central Hospital before going to clinic. Barbara, you remember?
Yeah, that's how it was. I think it's because we try so many things. We try something, and then another clique of people comes in. They have to find what works, what will benefit for them to make more money. They will introduce that and then stop what is working.
So UTH, Ndola Central Hospital, Kitwe Central Hospital should be a referral hospital. And then once that is decentralized, you know, they should allow private pharmacists to be involved in the supply and procurement of medication, because it's the government that pumps money into the economy. So the government needs to decentralize that. So what will happen is, instead of ZAMRA keeping all those medication, they can allow the private sector also to flourish, employ people, and also to buy and distribute medication on behalf of the government. So what will happen by Frank Ngamwa Clinic Kukwacha in Kitwe? The doctor will give you a prescription. You're not supposed to go to Central Hospital. It's only people who are admitted in the hospital that should be able to get medication in the hospital. So Kukwacha, go to a pharmacist and get the medication, and then the government pays the pharmacist. That will cut corruption, will improve supply of medication, will also create more jobs, will also provide business to small businesses. And then the government won't be able to keep so many medication at medical stores, which is eventually stolen. We've heard about those stories. So, we've got Frank. I remember
no government agency should store medication.
No.
When medication comes in the country, it has to go to where it's intended.
That's a thing. That is also corruption, is a recipe for corruption. Because a few years ago, medication disappeared from medical stores, which is ZAMRA now, because there's a cost of keeping that medication. You have to employ more people, warehousing, and the medication can go bad. Why can't you allow the private sector to be involved? The pharmacists, as long as they are properly controlled, and then the government pays those people,
The problem that we have, I think sorry, Frank, what were you going to say?
Now go on.
The problem that we have with the Ministry of Health, everybody that goes there, it's like one of those, I don't know, in Europe you can compare it to maybe immigration or health. There are those dangerous ministries where if somebody goes there, they go to be taught how that ministry works. They don't go there to change the process. You just go there. Before you know it, you become just a figurehead of somebody presenting functions. Before you know it, you start going from hospital to hospital, presenting blankets. So, our Minister of Health now, I'm going to donate my blankets. But Minister of Health now, I'm going to donate my bed sheets. Instead of solving the problems of that ministry, because these ministries have got people who've worked in there for so long, who are like the real manipulators of the system. Without controlling those people at the back of that ministry, everybody will be doing the same thing. Before you know it, you just start coming in, officiating functions. You become a figurehead of that ministry. And then everything else is just going on as usual. The medicine is being bought by the same people, emergency drugs the same way. As we are speaking, I can guarantee you within the year you'll hear about it. There's also a company that is registering maybe this week, by next week, quickly, it's already buying medication. Before you know it, this company has already got a list to provide X, Y, and Z, because that's how those systems work. To break them, somebody has to be really, really determined and have their foot on the pedal to make sure that things change. With such people, it may even risk your own being, because there are so many. It's a whole cartel of people who've been working together for so many years. The first plan is maybe separate them, change them to different ministries so that, you know, they don't have the same network, and see how it works. Maybe the procurement from Ministry of Health goes to local government or somewhere, so that where they're going, they'll be learning a new thing, but they've been within the ministry. So there is no control of, you know, how they're doing things. I don't know.
There's one thing before I'll bring it one Kalawai. There's one thing that is quite very important. I think we've talked about systems. We talked about changing systems and the way things are done. But is there some really honest truth that we are probably getting away as a culture? Because a lot of the time that culture of a society goes into a workplace. When people don't want, if people want to change, if people are strong about something, they're going to change. Is there something that as a society, the way we function has actually contributed to the way the system runs? Because I remember when I was at school, I remember when grade 12s were writing exams, everybody going to find leakage. I can't remember people doing that over here. And I remember when I was at boarding school in Tanda, parents coming in to say, well, we want to bring our child. And the headmaster says, we've got no space. The parent goes into the pocket, here's 300 something. The head teacher relents and say, yeah, go on, you can keep, the child can come in, we'll find room, of course. But in all that, in everything that we do, is there a culture that needs to be taken away at all levels of a society? Because what we have with people running those institutes are the same people who woke up the night before their grade 12 exam to go and buy leakage. They're the same parents, they're the children of the parents who went to school and there was no place for them, and their parents went to the pocket and the space was created for them. So is there just a culture of corruption that's been built in everything that we do that we ignore? Like your car's got no lights, so you just give the police officer some money and you don't think about it. You don't think, I'm contributing to this. You don't say, actually, if something is wrong with the car, take me to the police station and I'll pay what needs paying. Have we contributed to this as a society, as a way we look at things, as a way we do things?
My father used to say that sanity in Zambia went with Kaunda. You know, in the Kaunda era, if you get somebody money from nowhere, you just took out your money, you meet an old person and say, oh, here's 10 kwacha, they'll refuse. Oh, no. Are you sure? No. It will, you know, the way, if you watch Asian movies, the way people in Asian movies behave now, they would rather work for that money before they take it. At my grandfather's house, if you do something, even if they gave him something, he would refuse. That's how in Kaunda's time it was. Now between Chiluba and PS, this era, that I call it the era of moral degradation and corruption in Zambia. That's what I call it. That's where everybody has a culture of give me something. You can speak to somebody in the papers who they're calling a millionaire. That millionaire will still ask you for talk time, or pay for talk time so that I can say hi to you. Somebody will call you to speak to you. They'll still tell you that, oh, can you just pay for my talk time so that I can call you to say hi to you? Come on, if you want to say hi to me, just say hi to me with your own phone.
Barbara, I always joke. You know, like I'll get a message from a friend of mine I haven't heard from a long time, and they say hello, and the first thing I'm thinking is, what do they want?
Yeah, because that's the culture that is there now. Everybody wants something. Everybody wants something. My son was telling me about making friends, you know, like in Zambia, girls, and he's asking me, Mom, why is it that people are so easy to ask for money? You don't know them. They'll just say, oh, can you send me this? Can you send me that? Because it's a culture. Parents will even be happy. A parent will be happy to see their child with a handbag, with this, because that's what we are teaching our kids. It's our responsibility to change that culture. It's us. Because somewhere down the line, we stop telling our children to work hard, that life should be earned. You can't get things for free. You can't pay. You can't steal. Those are the things we pray the Bible, we talk the Bible, but we don't live it. I think that's where the problem is.
There's a trouble.
We have to do more as a people.
Wamkelabai, Kimazi Dati.
Kimanziwan is Chavasahesu. Kimanziwan Wasalike. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yes.
There's a question. I want to ask you this. So we've got the Ministry of Health have got internal auditors. And for me, it doesn't seem right, because for me, in the work I do, I'm being audited all the time. I've got the fraud team that will come and audit what I'm doing. They're external. I've got an audit team, an agency audit team that come and audit if I'm following all the rules in terms of the agency procurement. It's external. It's not part of our organization. So how can we trust auditors who work for the Ministry of Health to audit the Ministry of Health? Put it this way, they probably will be auditing their friends.
Absolutely. It's quite shame that nobody anymore takes professionalism serious in our country. And I think it's because of Katwishi Limbi Manyando, ukuchula, twali chula sana maybe. And now everyone wants to have, to earn things and have a shortcut in life to make more money. So you will find that, and when you have somebody who is the principal, who inspires so many people, and you hear him coming to tell you, the people, the country he's ruling, it tells you to say, Ulima muivala, alia muivala. That is encouraging something there. That idiom, it's very, very, very discouraging, and it's encouraging people to actually start benefiting from what they are supposed to perform in their professional capacity, but instead of just allowing them to get their remunerations for every month they finish, instead they would want to go on and make more money. And that's why, hence you find so many people in the medical, in the Ministry of Health and other departments, they have some subsidiary to my sideline businesses, to my private businesses. And when you look at those businesses they're doing, you may find that they have medicine, for example, that is missing from the hospital. They have the medicine that is they put in that small shop of theirs, and then write a prescription referring to the patient to go and buy from their pharmaceutical. So it's that kind of mentality that we have a I don't care type. For as long as you work for the government at Nivawa and Tuniva Boma, and then you see even actually the educated people, they are doing this. The people who are actually uneducated, or rather those who are a little bit illiterate, they are actually not even near this. It is the people that are well vested in the knowledge, the PhD holders, the degree holders, the masters. These are people, they know their education, instead of channel that education into what they are doing. And here you are finding there are some lawyers already You see them, they are representing people that they know have looted the nation, and they're busy representing them. And they're coming, actually, they're giving them ideas. They're giving them ideas. God, we are going to defend you. Don't worry. We are going to come up with this, this challenge. And don't worry. Just sue for 50 million. We'll come for you. We'll help you. Because I don't think that gentleman came up with that claim himself. No. It is the professional people that advised him. If you want to get money from the state, from the bomber, let's sue them, because these guys who are running these industries, running these institutions, they are just there to work for the government, for the people. So in short, this gentleman who's trying to sue the government is suing us, the people. So
us, the
let
people.
us just
after stealing from us, Ndate. After
yes. So those degrees these chaps are getting, and they are not just to make them expand their knowledge. No, it is to find out on how to con, how to defraud the system. They are busy defrauding the system. So we should do away with this kind of mentality, and let's offer solutions, Vane. I know we have condemned a lot. We have talked negative about this government, but what are the solutions? Probably they will hear when we start giving solutions to say this is how it ought to be done. Let's bring professional people that have the know-how, hoping that they are not actually luring us into giving out information to thieves, but benefiting us, because we are so negative sometimes that it pains me. I feel like punching any chap I find with the PF tag on his forehead. But because yes,
so we got a person like Jerome. Jerome, our own Jerome, was the only person in the medical profession who went, this is wrong. Is the only profession. This is a problem I have. In what we're going to talk about corruption and everything else, that people were involved in the health system. There was one young man who stood up and said, this was right. And no one backed him. No one backed him. Everybody carried on doing. Medical people knew they were giving out expired medication. There were pharmacists across the country knew they're giving out expired medication. They carried on giving out that medication. One person stood up, and his superiors were calling him mad because he was talking about the things that we're doing. For me, the problem I have is not enough people stand up and say, this is what is going on.
Including
as we speak, Wamkalabai, what I would like to see is somebody should have sat down with Jerome and say, can you tell us what's going on? Because everything that he says it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. He explains things so well. Why are we not taking the people who are speaking out? Why are we not listening to these people, sitting them down, and somebody in government say, tell us how this process can work a lot better? Because this is not going to take, creating a process should not take years. There's no way medication arrives in the country and goes to the central place. Every hospital in the country should have an ability to order medication, and that medication through the supplier should come in the country and straight to the hospital. Not all this nonsense of storing it somewhere else so that everybody else puts their hands in it.
It's all leadership, It's leadership. When you have a leader that has the passion to serve the people, and comes and pronounces zero tolerance on corruption. Because today in Zambia, as we speak, when somebody corruption, do you see them even inching or changing or looking aside? No, it's like it's just a song. You are too corrupt. So yeah. But you know what? They're not taking it seriously because they know that they can get away with anything, because the culture that we are creating in Zambia, it is so. Anamuchechi twalireka no kulanda pari corruption. Namuchechi molefu mana corruption. Mwefa mulesa ngata ma priest they are busy extorting money from poor people. It starts from those things. Mayanda, wives, they are busy extorting. They are refusing to give money to their wives. What happens? The wives start now finding ways of how to get money from this man who is stingy. So it starts from there. It starts from home, and it is growing. And they stop thinking. You know, when you have this tendency, animosity in you, DNA Africans, you want to show off when you are successful. Instead of being to yourself, to your ground, you want to show your riches to the people. This is what makes people do wrong things. Because what is the message are we sending to our young community, our youths? And that's why instead of going to work honestly, to work from their experience, whatever they've done for school, but instead they want to please society. Show us motoka tawakwatana driver's license. Washita TV taukwete table. I don't understand. You want to show people. So it's that kind of mentality.
Yeah, that's a very important point. We have to look at our mentality and how we make sure that at every level. I think what's important with like the Ministry of Health, we have to understand the one moment you ignore expired medication and you think, you know what, it doesn't affect my family. Next time your wife, your husband, your parents are in a hospital and they're getting the same medication. So we're just poisoning our own waters. Now, we've got 5 minutes. We've got 5 minutes to go. So I'm just going to try and just have a last word. Ooh.
Can I just say something before you? I know that we're about to close. I am a little bit disgusted, my brother, to be honest with you. This will be a little bit out of topic, but I think it's connected to what is going on. This is the syndrome, the syndicate that is going on in Zambia. The daughter to the president today, is it today or yesterday, had the audacity to actually claim that the 25 million kwacha that has been given to the CDF, she goes and say it's actually little. I'm like, look who is talking. How could she even come up with such kind of argument?
From 1.6 to 26 million.
Kibonda tayo baba mubulela kuliwe uyo bulela zeze chwana mwa parliament kapa kiboma. Why didn't she ask the father? Kenya ska bulela bonda tayo kuliwena tate. Kenya mulufa 1.6, Kenya msalufi 4. She wants to go and build the tarmac in Chawamati 1 point something million US. She's even quoting in US dollars as if we live in the United States. Kibuli yangu bwale. I don't understand.
I think it's a time we start quoting stuff in dollars, isn't it? Let's get everybody start coming and quote stuff in kwacha. Let's get a lot of Zambian suppliers in everything that we do, and they quote stuff in our language. In other words, everybody comes in with all these dollars and stuff, and sometimes people don't understand how many kwachas are in there, and they inflate their prices because of everything. Because one moment, let's just get our lady to also say something. What about Jacqueline?
You've all spoken so well. Patrick, Frank, the issue of drugs in our hospitals that have been going missing and are found in these pharmacies that are in our compounds is really disheartening. Jerome's case was very sad. He was all over warning the nation. Nobody believed him. And now we all look silly. Over and above, I'll tell you that we Zambians don't like people that are very upright. And this mindset has to be changed, especially with our younger people. Because now we're having young graduates that are young professionals, and everyone believes in this fast money and like working hard. Immediately you speak the truth. Even now, speaking on Bakwetu, I've had a few people ask me, aren't you scared? Scared of what? We're not saying anything wrong. 10 years, my business was blacklisted because I called out President Lungu on my Facebook page all the time. I lost business, I lost friends. Today, everyone wants to speak to you because they think, oh, the government you supported is in power. Maybe you will have an opportunity. Alawa kalamba ba leadership abafuminepo regime nabambi abakunuma bali onawula ekyalo ero n'okonawula abantu mu mitwe ero abaliponombe ffe tuleeromba ifwe nga kuli abatampa fine twambukula mfoti fintu kale babeekadde n'okubalesha n'okubafumyamu mutubungwe twa UPND babafumyemu fye pantu nga tababeekadde tababalesha ino inenshita ni 1 year from now fyala bana western okoko twafuma because bamwe abantu n'abasamwa n'okubeshwa n'atubeshwa tukalanda polimbi mwe balumendo mulebomba bashitata imwe ero nga malikwata banenu kuno abali mu machitwa chikalamba mulelanda nabo bantu abenebo tuchindikati ba chief executive wasange baleiba ba minister wasange baleiba ba PS baleiba ba director finshe baleiba mwabe bako bakwata kufya oluse tabaire kusukuru kuti babe bakabolala yo baire kusukuru kuti chalo chepantanshi. Thank you very much and God bless you all.
All right, thank you so much. Remember, TVBAKWETU, we're always here to inform the nation, to discuss the topics, and our passion is, as I said, I said the other week, we're not here because we've got nothing to do. We're here because we've got a passion for our country and always want to educate and always want to share what we've learned. And I just want to make this point. And sometimes we do a comparison of what's happening in Zambia and what's happening. We're not trying to say Zambia is not better. We're just trying to show how things can work, how systems work, and what if they're implemented in the right way, they can work. One thing that is important in everything that we do, we speak up for our country, we speak up for our people, that we don't look the other way when we see corruption, that we just don't carry on and say this is part of us, this is how the way things are supposed to be. This is not the way things are supposed to be. Let us always fight for our country, fight for our people in everything that we do. Also, let us not forget on TVBAKWETU, but get some stars, get some stars to support TVBAKWETU so we can bring you a lot more. And for some of you who would like to be part of a TVBAKWETU family, you can be a TVBAKWETU member. A TVBAKWETU member for £3.49. £3.49 only cost me. So if you go at the bottom of your phone, you're going to see the star. You can get your star there, and right there is another one that is for membership, and you can join there, and you can join in a lot of discussions. There are a lot of discussions that go on when we're live, when we're off air, and on a WhatsApp group when you're part of our Bakwetu family. So would like to have you there and also join us. This has been a special TVBAKWETU broadcast. We've been talking the Ministry of Health. I was joined this evening by Dr. Barbara, who's had to go. I was also by our resident pharmacist, Jerome Kanyika, who's also had to go. Our own Patrick Chilufia, our Jacqueline, and also Bom Kelavai. Thank you everyone for joining. This has been TVBAKWETU. God bless our country, and see you soon.